Okay, this is Robin Harford from eatweeds.co.uk and foragingcourses.com. I'm here with Craig Worrall of Edible Leeds, and as you can hear, there's a burbling brook in the background. And we're out. What are we out doing?
We're out fungus hunting. We've come out to check the fungal species that are coming out this time of year. It's a really good time of the year for the edible species. I've got certain ones in mind that I'd like to kind of like plug in and get some for my dinner, because I'm a pretty hungry man at the moment. So I thought I'd bring you out to one of my lovely local woodlands where I kind of know things are kicking off at the moment. It's a bit out of the city. It's a completely different ecology here to what you would find in the woods in the city. In fact, there's another mushroom just popped up in front of me there as well. Yeah. So these are both edibles, both in the same species. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring you out, come and have a look at some mushrooms and chat fungi, and yeah.
Great. So the habitat that we're in at the moment, so you're going to talk us through these two.
Yeah, absolutely.
The habitat, just for the listeners to kind of gauge.
So the habitat at the moment, what we've got are these Sitka spruce. These are spruce trees, so kind of evergreen trees. What we've also got in this woodland is quite a mix. So we've got deciduous and we've got evergreen. And what I find is that's really nice sort of cross habitats for various species. What's really interesting is that these two species that are actually right now in front of us both like growing in both deciduous woodlands and they like growing in evergreen pine woodlands as well. So they're kind of like cross habitat species. So that's really lovely. So it kind of like multiplies the different habitats that you can go to find those species. But also a couple of the other species that I know that are here as well today, they also both grow in pine and deciduous, but the other fungus that I'm going to show you are actually growing in with deciduous at the moment.
Okay.
But again, you can find them with pines as well.
So what have we got here? What are you going to show us?
Well, we've got the golden shrine of mushroom hunting here. Basically, what we've got two highly sought after generally. I mean, if you look in the books, all these books will say that these are pretty top edible species. So the first one that we've got here, which has been well nibbled on by some woodland creature by the looks of it. So this is Boletus Edulis, or the sep. Highly sought after, and it is a lovely mushroom.
That's Penny Bun.
This is a Penny Bun, yeah. I'm glad you said that, because we're losing that name from the traditional English. So we've adopted the French, so the French sepe, meaning tree trunk. We've adopted that, we've kind of anglicised it, it's become sep. So if you go over to Italy, you've got porcini, which I think means little piglet. Germany, it's steinpilz, which is like rock mushroom. And over in bonny old and lovely green and pleasant England, we've got the penny bun. And I try to label it as a penny bun, but every now and then I kind of slip into sep. Sometimes I call it porcini.
I think it's really important to keep those traditional names. I mean, anyone who's had their culture destroyed, take Wales, you're not allowed to speak Welsh, and therefore the way to dominate a culture is to destroy its language.
Absolutely.
It's like wild garlic, people call it wild garlic, but I do bang on about saying, look, it's Ramsons. This is our kind of common name for it, and let's not forget our heritage on that front.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, this is a penny bun. we'll leave the Franco-anglicised version out of this one. So yeah, this is a penny bun. Very highly sought after. This is a perfect little specimen. We've got 3 inches high maybe. So it's quite a young fruiting specimen. I will take this one because I know that these woodlands are pretty thick with them, and there's a succession of them coming out at the moment. The temperatures seem to be just right. We had a load of rain at the weekend, which is perfect for fungi. They're like a bit of humidity, lovely little bit of moisture. So ideal. Later on this week, I think it kind of could turn to more of a summer event. We've got some very hot weather coming in, and I think that's going to just knock them off, so to speak. But we're 2-3 days after the heavy rains and stuff, plus we had a lot of cloud yesterday, so a lot of moisture still held in the ground. Perfect for these. This size, I mean, a lot of people will say that you should really pick these when the caps have opened, they've been sporing. But the thing is, the mycelial network is underground, and I know that these will produce more fruiting bodies. We're very, very early in the season for these. And it's a beautiful fungus. It's beautiful eaten raw. I mean, do you want to try a little sample of the cap? We'll just get rid of that bit of dust and stuff. And although saying that, as foragers and herbalists, I think we're constantly eating bits of dirt. Isn't it? Right.
Profile, isn't it?
Yeah, I only trust people with dirt in their fingernails generally. But, yeah, nice. Beautiful, isn't it?
Really nice. And what have we got over here on the left here?
So we've got here, as the books would say, second only to Boletus Edulis. This is the bear bolly, or Boletus badius. In a certain way, I don't see any sort of distinction between the two. I think they're both absolutely superb edible species. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop this one out of the ground, give it a bit of a twist to break it free from its mycelial network. So basically what we've got here is the fruiting body of the mycelium proper.
Yeah.
So basically what we've got, unlike plants and trees, which are visible above the ground throughout the whole of the year, their roots in the ground, fungi, they create an underground mycelial network of very, very fine rooting hairs, which we call, each individual one is a hypha. When they multiply to the extent where we can potentially see, if we were to take the topsoil away and get down to the mycelial network itself, you would see a very thick, sort of web-like white structure of very fine hairs going along. But you can see them because there's so many of them. We then we call that plurally the mycelium. And the mycelium is underground constantly. It's subterranean throughout the whole of the year. And when the conditions, the time of year is right, moisture, warmth, what you will find is that the hyphae, or the mycelium themselves, the fine hairs or the fine roots will then come up and they will form this fruiting body.
Right.
So really what this is just made up is lots of like really fine tubes, basically.
Yeah.
A little bit like trees, I suppose, in that sense, where they've got the xylem tubes that are going up.
Yeah.
So this one again, really, really good quality mushroom. Just going to take the base off that. So quite often with these fungi, it's good to have a little chop through the base.
Yeah.
Quite often you'll find there's a lot of sort of fungal gnats, woodland flies and things, and the mushrooms are really good kind of breeding grounds and like houses and food systems for these fungal gnats, which will quite often... I have a feeling that some of them are laid while the fungus is in the ground with the mycelial network, that the insects know that they're coming and that they lay their eggs inside them, because if you look at this species, you can see sort of the starting potentially of the little gnat holes that could be up inside this. And what I found is that I've picked species of mushrooms in the past that have had no physical evidence on the exterior to show that anything has kind of like penetrated inside and laid eggs. But what I have found once cutting inside on the internal are fungal gnats larvae on the inside. So I don't know about this. Is just me as a passing observer, so to speak, in the natural realm of things. Through my experiences, and a potential theory is that some of those insect eggs are actually laid prior to the mushroom coming up, that the insects know. Maybe there's some kind of chemical aroma going on, and they're kind of like, you're about to pop up. That's my food. That's my nest for my little babies. In they go, and they grow up. So if you chop the bottom off these fungus, what you'll quite often find through chopping through, if you find lots of bugs inside it, you'll probably be able to figure just what the extent of the larval infestation inside that fungus is, and is it then actually worth actually taking it, so to speak, and do you leave it behind for the gnats, or is there enough that's retrievable to dry?
So talking fungi, I mean, what's the, often people refer to things as mushrooms or toadstools. So obviously I'm playing devil's advocate here. But just for obviously listeners who are completely new to all this. So
okay, so the extent of knowledge that I have, basically they're all the same, basically. It's all mushrooms, it's all fungus. I think fungus is the scientific term for mushrooms, basically. There's a connection within the literature for it from sort of, I think it's French-wise or something like that, with the, where was I going to go with that one? Tadstole, which is meaning toadstool.
Okay.
Basically, if it's an edible one, we would generally class that as a mushroom. If it's a poisonous one, that would be a toadstool. Yeah. And a lot of that is to do with the association with the dark arts behind mushrooms, the mystery of mushrooms, where mushrooms came from. Yeah. We now know that there is a mycelial network underground for many, many centuries. Nobody knew this. You'd go out walking one day, nothing's there. You go out the next day, suddenly these magical, mystical little organisms have popped up, and people are like, where the hell have they come from? It's to do with the dark arts. Obviously, this is a very religious time in our history, and so yes, so the tadstole or toadstool, toads obviously were associated with witchcraft, witches were associated with the devil, the dark arts, against the ecclesiast,
Sure.
Whereas the good ones, the mushrooms, they're cool, aren't they? They're mushrooms. Is that right? They're not associated with the devil, so we'll call them mushrooms. It's a bit tenuous is the link there, I suppose, but so you can see. Yeah, you can see the fungal inside, the larvae that's inside it now.
Yeah.
On the exterior, there was absolutely no evidence to show it's there.
Didn't it?
So that's my thing of these being laid, and then as the mushrooms formed, it's formed around the eggs of the larvae, and then the larvae have hatched, and then getting their dinner, basically, before they turn into gnats and fly off and keep the cycle of things going, really.
Yeah.
I find with the Bay Bolete that there's almost like a slight sweetness to this one, in contrast to the porcini. I find that the porcini for me it's kind of sweet and earthy and fungally and mushroomy. I know they probably sound really blatantly obvious, the fact that they've come from the earth and it's a mushroom, but there are subtle differences, and I find the Bay Bolete just ever so slightly sweeter. There's a sweeter little note to it. Do you want to have a nibble as well?
Yeah.
Do that. Have a nibble, see what you think. This is the Bay Bolete that I've just given you.
What I really like is the texture.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I really like textures.
I mean, these are very young specimens, so these are going to be really firm. These are very, very, almost like a slight al dente crunch to them.
Yeah.
Another day in this sort of heat, especially for the porcini. I've got a feeling the porcini is slightly older than the Bay Bolete. I reckon the porcini may be, 24 hours. I reckon this one's probably just slightly behind it. But what you will find over time, so probably with another day, with the warm temperature that we've got at the moment, is that these caps hopefully will expand, but also they'll become much softer. Very, very soft. I sort of draw you in as well, because I think a lot of people with mushrooms and associations with mushrooms, we expect mushrooms to have gills. So the mushrooms we buy from the supermarket, the button mushrooms, the agaricus family, they are gilled. What we'll find on this one is there are no gills to this one. And this is a trait of the sort of Boletus family, in a sense. And they're broken down into three sections. Well, you've got the Boletus, you've got then the Edulis, which like larch boletes would come under, and slippery jacks. And again, they've got the tubes, but they've got this kind of viscosity to them, like this slippery sliminess to them. Plus they form rings around the stem and the cap, and when they pop open, you get like a ring forming around the stem. But they've all got these pores or tubes on the underside in place of gills.
So are these are the, like with plants, there's certain families that are really safe and certain families that are potentially dodgy and poisonous if you get it wrong. Is that similar? Does that cross over to the...
Generally, there are... Depends which species you're looking at.
So I couldn't say all boletes are edible?
No. Not all boletes are, from what I can gather. There's one called Satan's bolete, and that one in particular is quite toxic. And in the book that I have, or one of the books that I've got, the Roger Phillips mushrooms book, which is if you're into your mushrooms, it's kind of the Bible of mushroom books. It's an amazing book. But again, some of that information is possibly slightly dated. His second edition, there's some anomalies in there from the first edition which have been updated. We're finding new scientific discoveries and breakthroughs, so even the names attributed already to some of these fungus are now changing currently, even as we talk.
It's the same with plants as well.
So the devil's bolete is a poisonous one, and it says in there potentially deadly, so it's one of those to avoid. But again, it's like plants, all fungi. All fungi are identifiable. It's a little like people with fingerprints. They've got these subtle, not necessarily always subtle, sometimes they're subtle differences, sometimes they're gaping differences, really stand out, sort of sore thumb type. Where was I going with that one? Basically having a good instructor, a good guide, or some very good guidebooks, and actually taking your time to spend time in the woodlands with the fungi, taking a couple of specimens back with you if there's enough fruiting bodies to do so you can carry out some work at home. Some of those families and some of those fungus will need microscopic examination to get down to the finer, minute details of the spores in particular, the shape, the quantity of them, how they're formed, are they attached to each other. I would always say to anybody going out there looking for mushrooms, don't listen to any of the old mythological tales such as leave the white-gilled fungi out, because actually there's some really lovely white-gilled fungi you can eat. There was an interesting guy, what did he say to me on my course the other day? See if I can rack my brains on this one. Saw a guy in a shop in Ingleborough the other day. I was getting some fish and chips on my way back from the Lake District, and I was chatting to the lady in the fish shop about mushrooms, and this guy stood next to me. What did he say now? He came out with this, never eat fungus that are growing underneath trees. And I always kind of looked at him and I was like, no mate, not at all, because some of the ones that we're looking at here, the Bay Bolete and the porcini, they're mycorrhizal. They actually grow within a symbiotic relationship with the trees. It's kind of a scratch my back, scratch your back scenario. So yeah, some of these old tales just have no place in reality and science these days. And that's fine, it's something that he's heard. He's not pursued it any further, and a lot of people have these sort of common misperceptions, I suppose. So this is why we do fungal forest, trying to educate people, really. But both these two species are mycorrhizal. Myco is Greek for mushroom. Rhiza is Greek for roots, so basically it's mushroom roots. And mycorrhizal fungi have a symbiotic relationship, whereas the mycelial network, the hyphae, that mycelial network, the rooting system that's underground, will attach itself to, around, and within the rooting network of the trees. Now, on a basic level from that, what they do with host tree and what host tree will do for said mushroom is they will pass nutrients and food, food, and they will also pass water to each other. And there are certain chemicals, I think phosphorus and I think magnesium is the other one, and there's another one. They're ones that each one or the other quite often has a depletion of. So, tree passes said nutrient to fungus. Fungus in dry times will have store of water and pass some water to said tree, or vice versa. It's a really lovely relationship, and they kind of look after each other.
It is a really cool. When I was speaking to a chap in America, and he's kind of he's normally a plant person. He's the last 3 years he's really got into fungi, and it's like this kingdom that's just because they are completely different from plants. They're not the same kingdom, whereas a lot of people dump them into the same kingdom, and they're not. They're completely different worlds.
Absolutely, they are. Fungi are more associated with the animal kingdom, and I think it was widely believed in the past that the animal kingdom led on to the production or the evolution of mushrooms. There's some science out there and some theories where they're revising that old perception, and what they're actually stating potentially is that actually no, fungi were around long before animals were, and actually they gave rise to animals. I think for a lot of people that's going to be like, whoa, shaking the foundations of their world of perceptions and normality, and it's it's pretty groundbreaking stuff. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting to think that maybe we're a byproduct of the fungi. They've brought us around to distribute their spores, and who knows?
I'm well into that. Absolutely, man. Definitely in that symbiosis with plants, and the fact that I believe plants called humans out of the oceans, and Michael Pollan in his book Botany of Desire posits this kind of beautifully outrageous idea that actually humans are just actually human bees. We are pollinators, and in order for fungi and plants to distribute themselves, they needed something to do that. So yes, they created insects and everything else, but they also created humans. And we are at that level. We're just two-pedded pollinators.
So it's an interesting little fungi, this one. So this one here is this is the miller.
Is it edible?
It is edible, yeah. It's a nice edible species. It's a bit of a scary species for a few. It took me quite a few years to get my confidence to pick and eat this one. What's really lovely is it's growing in the woodland. If this was growing in some grassland, I think the fear that comes with this one is that it's... they say in the books that for every edible species of fungus that there are 6 potential poisonous lookalikes. Actually, I don't think there are 6 potential poisonous lookalikes. There's possibly 1 or 2 potential poisonous lookalikes and a few potential, or maybe 1 potential deadly poisonous lookalike. Some of those things could be easy to confuse. But if we take a systematic approach of looking at these fungus, looking at the habitat that they're growing in, cross-referencing them with books, taking spore prints if possible, chatting to a mycological expert, if, for instance, don't trust pictures online. I would say that to people now. There's a lot of people out there with all the best intentions in the world, but they don't know if you've posted up the right picture. For instance, you may have pressed the wrong button, and actually what you're showing them is an edible version, and what you meant to show them was the death cap. And someone's going like, hey, man, that's a certain edible species. Yeah, cook it up for your dinner guests or whatever. And, potential dangers. And also, the Forestry Commission, naturally, they're going to love stuff like that, aren't they? People poisoning themselves. So, yeah, just be careful online. But what this particular fungus could be confused with is another species in the Clitoside family, which is the fool or sweatings funnel. I think it's Clitoside dealbata, if I remember right on the Latin side, but maybe the name's changed. And that one in particular can be quite pokey for people, so it could cause pretty nasty side effects, like sweatings, diarrhea, vomiting. I think potentially if you eat a lot of them, there's a potential for some quite serious either organ damage or potentially killing yourself. But again, it's about looking at these fungus, you know, picking them, having a sniff them, having a feel of them, looking at the different characteristics of them. It's breaking down those little features, those subtle little features, and helping you ascertain what it actually is. So for this one, what you can see is that we've got this is a guild fungi. So the ones that we've seen so far, the two Boletus, they're both, hello Alf, sorry my dog's here as well, in between us, hello. So the other ones that we've looked at, the Boletus, they were tubed, sort of pores or tubes on the underside, whereas this one is kind of true mushroom in the sense that it's got gills. What's really lovely with this one is you can see that the gills are actually decurrent, so they're running down the stem. They don't stop sort of where the stem reaches the cap itself, they actually run down the stem itself, or part way down the stem, really tightly packed together. You should have intermediate little gills in between, so where you've got so
one long, one short.
So you can see you've got these really long gills, then in between you've got these little short gills at the end of there. Again, the cap consistency of this one, if you have a feel of this one, people in the books liken it to chamois leather. And I can kind of get where they come from. I remember as a kid helping to drive my dad's car using a chamois leather. It's like, I want to rub it on my face, rub it on your face when it's lovely.
Suits you, sir.
It does, sir. And what you'll find over time with this species as well, so if you're a little bit stuck, you're a little bit nervous, there are ways to ease your nervousness. The smell of this one.
Smells very distinct.
Brilliant, And maybe try having a cut of it as well, Robin. You find that sometimes by chopping it open that you'll break through some of the cells and sort of release the juices and more of the aromas. But over time, this fungus, at the moment you can see that the gills are white, it's not actually dropping its spores at the moment. Just like to mention to people who are listening at the moment, there's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6. We've picked 1. What will happen over time, so you can see these are kind of like an off-white, creamy grey coloured gill at the moment, beautiful white flesh. These gills over time, when they start to produce the spores, will turn like a pinky colour. The other Clyde type doesn't do that, it's got a different spore print. So if you keep it for a day or so, in fairly decent conditions, in a fridge or something, to stop it from sort of rotting down.
How would you keep mushrooms in fridges?
It depends which species, really. Chanterelles, I find, will live in your fridge quite happily, potentially for up to a month. And a friend of mine, Lisa, she's got a really lovely tip about using some of the moss from the woodlands that you find the chanterelles growing in. A lot of mosses are quite antiseptic, antibacterial. Chanterelles are not prone to sort of like rotting very, very quickly. You know, they will stay in the ground in the right habitat and grow over periods of months, potentially like 2-3 months. You can go back and you'll, you know, from little pinhead mushrooms, so these really quite decent size, almost ice cream cone size fungi there, with very little larval infestation and also any sort of like natural degradation to the quality of them. Seps, for instance, you pop a sep in your fridge, a nice young firm cap in your fridge, 2 days later it's starting to go a bit squidgy, it's getting a bit spongy, they break down much quicker. St George's mushrooms in the spring, I find they last in the fridge for a very good long time. Give them a really good clean, put them into a container. I've got a salad spinner.
Cleaning a mushroom is brushing a mushroom.
Just brush the mushroom. Don't wash it with water. No, don't stick them in water. I mean, fungi are 90% water anyway, and by immersing them in water, you're just going to make them extra watery basically. And from what I can gather, watery environments are really good for bacterial growth and breaking things down quicker. So again, to shelf life for mushrooms, it's really good sometimes with species such as the sep. If you find a good sep and I'm not going to eat it straight away, then I'll dry it. So I'll cut it nice and thin, put it in the sunshine for maybe a day or two if it's the right temperature. Within 2 days, I've got some lovely dried seps and they will store for, decades, potentially in the right environment. Back to storing in a fridge, very much species dependent. Some last much longer than others, and maybe using that tip that Lisa's mentioned about putting the moss in there will extend that shelf life as well. I suppose it's a natural E number, for want of a better phrase. We'll take one of these with us and have a nibble at that one.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely fungus.
Just over kind of through the hedges, through the woods, and we've got a lovely purple.
That's a cracker, is that?
Fungi. I mean, it's got to be 3 inches high.
Yeah.
Amethyst Deceiver.
Amethyst Deceiver is this one?
I do know this one.
You do? Good. I know you know a few. So yeah, beautiful. Part of the Lacaria family, or Lacaria family. Again, back end of summer, autumn time, prolific fruiters. Really, really love deciduous leaf litter. In particular, I find beech leaf litter.
Yeah.
A lot of beech trees around us, leaf litter.
Yeah.
Really extensive in and around this region. I mean, nationally, they're everywhere. Edible, yeah, absolutely. Brilliant flavour. It's not the most amazing flavour, but you know, you want to stick something extra inside your soup or your omelette.
Your friends, isn't it?
Tell us about it. But I mean, look at the colour.
I know.
Look at that. It's beautiful. Look at the gills though in that.
Absolutely.
It's magic, isn't it?
Stunning.
Isn't it? Yeah, it is stunning, isn't it? And it is deep amethyst. It's
really beautiful.
It's more amethyst than amethyst. So yeah, really interesting. The fact that this family is given kind of the local sort of name of Deceiver. You know, you give this another day, and what you'll find, let's see, you can see this one, it's its brother or sister here. See how much paler it is?
Yeah.
You know, and another day it'll be almost white.
Yeah.
So on the initial fresh stage, you can't really go wrong with that one, can you? 2 or 3 days later, if you're fairly new to this, and you find a clump of each, you're a bit like, well, you know, the gills look similar, and the looks and the colour's completely different.
Yeah.
Still a deceiver, hence the name, the Deceivers. So, yeah, well, I'll take that one for the pot. Or you can take it with you to your retreat this evening.
To my monastery.
Yeah, you can do. Do you know what? I think they'd love that, wouldn't they, as well? That's your offering, your peace fungi offering. There you go, folks. We'll pop that in there for you, eh? So, yeah. So, as I was saying earlier, so this is a patch of hedgehog fungi. Wow. Yeah. Tell me about it. Right.
Blimey.
Look at the network. Look at the ring. And what's that? 25 metres?
Easy.
It's got to be 25 metres, yeah. So we've got a 25, what's that diameter into? I'm not very good at maths, I'm a forager. 25 metre diameter, and I mean, I've been here and picked already, but it was thick with them. I mean, you get patches, Robin. That's even more cluttered than this. You know, seriously, there's hardly any space for them. But you can see how young and juvenile these are. Look, you've got some really young fruit bodies coming up.
Yeah.
I have picked this extensively, not to the point where it's going to threaten the mycelial network, but I knew that anyway. I knew about the mycelial network. And not to the point where it was me being over greedy.
Yeah.
But to the point where I felt, actually, do you know what? Given the amount of numbers that are here, it's easy to come here in a good season and pick, I don't know, a kilo a week almost yeah, I reckon so. But not even a kilo a week. You could come here and pick.
When you say picking, you're referring to cutting. Are you or not?
No, well, there are some who say that what you should do is twist gently and pull the fungus up.
Yeah.
That what you shouldn't do is cut a fungus from its base. If there's any part of that base left under the ground, they reckon potentially it has the potential for other bacteria to start rotting it down, which could get into the mycelium. I would like to err on a different side to that and think that actually maybe fungi, given the fact that animals and stuff kick them over, have probably evolved to kind of be immune to that bacterial infestation. I mean, I don't know that for certain. I've been out in the past and I've cut sepsis in my early days when reading things in books, and then read other stuff in other books, and I've seen no decline in any of the areas that I've cut around those mycelium, such as my porcini patches. They still keep fruiting. Doesn't seem to do any harm to the mycelium. But again, I can't see into the soil to see if it has. But knowing I've got very good, sat-nav point in my mind for remembering exactly the locations in and around where they're growing. They're all going to be from one mycelial network. You know, and there seems to be no detrimental effect. So
I think Peter Jordan, I mean, he always used... Peter Jordan, before he died, bless him, was like the gastromycologist. He was... And he had the Tasty Partnership up in Norfolk. He wrote loads of books on edible mushrooms, because that was his focus. And, you know, he'd always go out with his knife and cut. So it's, you know, I mean... Again, it's one of those things that no one knows at the moment, do we?
Open to debate. Yeah, it's one of those... You know, I've done it, and I'm not seeing any detrimental effects on the mycelial network. Maybe we need to do some studies on that. Maybe there's a heck of a lot more mycelial studying network that we need to do. But then again, we've been here on a snip of the time frame. I mean, what have these got? Like 400 million years of evolution, and we've got... Well, let me just pop a hair out on the timescale of universal time frames. They're, to be honest with you, I think they're far more intelligent and adapted to what's going on around them than what we are at the moment. And I think that's the exciting
thing about fungi is that, you know, the more research, people like Paul Stamets, who wrote Mycelium Running, you know, serious scientists who are just, like, just touching the edge of the iceberg when it comes to the fungi world.
Yeah, I mean...
So let's go down and have a look. So talk us through... So this is hedgehog fungi.
It is a hedgehog. I'm just going to go grab my knife, mate, and then I can take off the mucky bit at the bottom, so not to get any debris in the little collection pot. So yeah, so these are hedgehog fungi. So what's really... So these are part of the Hydnum family, Hydnum. This is Hydnum repandum. And unlike the other three species that we've looked at, so we've looked at the Amethyst Deceiver, guild fungi.
Yeah.
We looked at the Miller, guild fungi.
Yeah.
We looked at the two Boletes, tube paw fungi. Whereas this one is part of the toothed fungi. What you get these lovely little kind of like teeth or stalactites.
Yeah.
Kind of. Is it stalactites?
Yeah.
Stalagmites grow up. Stalactites grow up.
Don't know, mate.
It's something like that, isn't it? Yeah. We're above ground generally. That's a realm of the Mycelium, isn't it? The caves and underground. I mean, this is a perfect class. You know, it's beautiful. I mean, have a feel of it, and
yeah. I mean, I eat this. This is.
You into these? Yeah, good. Well, maybe we should take some of these over to your retreat with you tonight, and so there's plenty of them. I mean, take 5 or 6. I mean, look at them all, man. There's hundreds of them. Beautiful fungus. And again, just there's a little slither.
And you keep the spines on them?
I do, yeah. In this young phase that I do...
Some people kind of take them off, don't they?
As they get older, what you'll find at the moment, they're a very pale... As you twist them to the light as well, the light... It's almost like a slightly buff, yellow, tannish colour on some of the cap. It's good stuff in it, yeah? And if you turn those upside down and you turn it to a certain way, you can almost see that kind of like creamy... I don't know, is it?
Yeah.
Not vanilla. I suppose vanilla
really
ice cream.
Yeah, vanilla. Yeah.
That yellowy, buttery, vanilla ice cream colour to it. These are fresh, young paws. We'll find an older specimen that I'll show you, and I'll show you the difference between the size of the teeth on that one compared to these young ones.
Yeah.
I do find that when they get older, that the teeth do get slightly bitter. And that can impair the flavour then when you're cooking them.
Sure.
So on the older specimens, if I do take the older specimens, but look at all these young fresh ones, I don't need to do that. I can leave the older ones to kind of do their natural cycle. I'll just scrape the needles off, basically. But like that, not a problem for me.
Yeah.
I'll eat it like that.
Wonderful.
It is, isn't it? Beautiful.
Let's go find the big one.
One thing it is a bit of a puzzler for me, though, is why they call it pied de mouton, sheep's foot. Because I've never seen a sheep's foot like that in my life, man. And just while we're stamping through, remember I told you about the yellow trumpets?
Yeah.
See them all?
Yeah.
The huge network.
Yeah.
The thing is, last year, none of these were here.
Massive.
Yeah, it is huge. And this is the thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's a huge network. I mean, what we're looking at there, 4 or 5 metres by...
Yes.
Maybe again, 4 or 5 metres?
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's the beauty of fungi is that, you know, it's one of those things, well, there's nothing here kind of goes on in my head. And then I spot some, and then suddenly my perception shifts into fungi land, and suddenly they're bloody everywhere. You know?
Do you want to try something? Do you want to lay down for just a moment, get down to their height? Seriously, seriously, come and lie down, man. It's great. Just get down to their level, and then look out across the forest floor.
Yeah, it is really... It is magical,
beautiful,
isn't it?
Isn't it beautiful?
And with all the mosses, and I do take people into the forest floor with an eyeglass, and we get right down looking at the kind of architecture, and this whole world just opens up. That, you know, you just don't get it when you're tic-tacking on your smarty pants. It doesn't happen. So yeah, everyone, even if you don't even touch a fungi, just get out into the forest and get down low like a slithering slow worm.
Yeah, and when you're sick of being on your belly, turn on your back and look up through the trees as well. It's a whole new world up above you as well. It's quite magical. It's quite refreshing, really, isn't it?
It is really,
it's lovely.
Really special. Actually.
These are lovely. Really good. See,
so this is yellow legs.
Well,
are they called yellow legs?
Yeah, there seems to be different varieties, and I've known them as yellow legs or the yellow trumpet fungus, but I'm looking at the moment these kind of almost like, I can see almost like a little sort of like scaly fibrillose to the cap, and the fact that these are so deeply yellow. There's a guy called Andy Overall who I see him regularly post up on the British Mycological Society Facebook page, and he actually put up a species last night, which I'm looking at these and thinking that these are the ones he was chatting about last night, and it was Cantharellus. I forget the surname of it now, which is a shame. But I have a feeling he'd never found these before.
Right.
He's found them up in Scotland along the side of a loch. I'm not going to tell people where that loch is. But I also found some very, very similar in Cumbria last week. I think I found 3 different varieties of this kind of Cantharellus family.
Oh, okay.
One of them was a golden chanterelle, which is apparently pretty damn rare, which is a superb find. You know, finding a rare fungus that's not edible to me is just as exciting, in fact, if not more exciting than finding a Puccini, that's edible for me.
Sure.
It's not just about the edible fungi. So I'm looking at these cap sort of markings on here, these sort of fibrillose scales, and I'm thinking that maybe it's the one that Andy had posted last night. But I have a feeling that there's maybe other species mixed in here, but again, it's very, very subtle.
Yeah.
I think some of the names have been changing in this family.
And I mean, you know, talking about, do fungi hybridise? Like plants hybridise?
Do you know, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. I won't go any further into that. I've got some vague bits of information that seem to be popping through from the back of my mind, but they're so vague and not necessarily definite that it's pointless me chatting about it online and making myself sound like a complete other numpty. So I'll err on the side of I'm not too sure on that one. But it's quite highly possible.
Yeah.
So there we go. There's an older specimen here. So this one here, these are from the first fruitings that were out in June this year.
Yeah.
We've had 2 fruitings at the moment. The first fruiting was at the end of June,
Right.
and we had quite, from what I can gather, a pretty dry spell and period. This is when the first flush came up. The ones that you're looking at now have been coming up for probably the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they're the August fruiting that are coming through.
Yeah.
So again, this is a lovely thing that these seem to fruit twice within the same season. Have I noticed that in the past? I'm not too sure that I have. I've just assumed that the bigger, older ones were just a little bit older than the young ones, but not in such a vast time scale.
Right.
So that's really interesting. The fact that.
Yeah.
So again, it's open for debate and research and study. Do these, can they have multiple fruitings? I know from a mate in Scotland, Mark from Galloway Wild Foods, he's mentioned about sort of double flushes coming through, like say with chanterelles,
Yes.
they get like an early summer flush, and it may kind of like die off, and then they get a second autumnal flush. And again, is it actually the second flush? From what we can gather, it seems to be.
Yeah.
Whether the Forestry Commission and all the other mycologists know this, I don't know. I've not heard any of this cited by them.
Sure.
But you can see they're getting much longer.
Yeah.
They're actually still not a bad colour, to be honest with you.
They're breaking off, aren't they?
Yeah.
As you stroke them, whereas with the young one.
They will break. They're both really delicate.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the much older ones, you'll find that these go like a muckier vanilla ice cream colour, almost like an orangey hue to them, to an extent, a browny orange hue to them.
Yeah.
And that's when I tell that they're bitter. But these ones are a bit past, and so you can actually see some larval infestation. You can see little, I don't know if it's sort of maybe cobweb or whether this is starting to sporulate, so maybe starting to form a new mycelial network that potentially will rot back down into the ground. I'm sure I read something the other day about, maybe in one of the science papers, about fungi that do then break down and how it's potentially important for some of those fungus to be allowed to break down because it will actually strengthen the genetic formula of that mycelial network. So that's in contrast to what we're saying over there. I say, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Big bit of information in my head. But if I just give this a snippet, you can see, look at all the little bugs that are running through there. So, these older ones, I ain't going to touch them. They can let them break down. That's for other things to eat or to be recycled for the soil bacterias and the fungal network, the bugs or whatever it's. So again, there's, just like to say for the record, there's mindful, sustainable, thoughtful harvesting going on here, sort of ecological stewardship. It's not just a case of, hey, mushrooms, hey, money, let's grab them while we can.
20 metres of hedgehog, let's nick the lot. Yeah, not going to happen.
No, it's not. No. Absolutely not. I wouldn't want that. So yeah, interesting stuff. And just to draw back to these yellow legs, which I think are the yellow legs, we've covered tooth fungi.
Yeah.
We've covered paw and tubed fungi.
Yeah.
We've covered gilled fungi.
Yeah.
If you look at these, they look like gills, but they're not. They call them primitive gills or primitive wrinkles,
right?
Which are gill typed.
Yeah.
So again, in this woodland, we've just covered 5 species, and 4 of them have got very different kind of like gill structures to them. This is the beauty and the magic of the fungal kingdom, and there's more to come. This is the thing, it's pretty dry here at the moment, but you give it another 3 or 4 weeks, or maybe another month, and the rain starts to come, this place will just erupt with just a wild and wonderful array of colours, shapes, sizes, different, whether it's Basidiomycetes or the Ascomycetes, it's rocking, man.
Yeah. So if people are who are listening to this are around Leeds, and they want to come on a fungi forage or plant forage with you, how do they get in contact with you? You got a website?
Yeah, I've got a website which is Edible Leeds. But if they want to email, they can email me at edibleleeds@gmail.com.
Okay.
But I'm up on Twitter, Instagram as Craig Edible Leeds. They'll find me through the website and all the links that I've got.
You just have to put Craig Edible Leeds into Google and you'll
up at the top of it.
Mushroom,
I will do, yeah. Where's he been? Oh, he's surfacing. Very enigmatic.
Okay.
So, yeah, brilliant.
So, been really cool coming out with you and hanging out with you for a while.
Likewise.
So, I know we spent a little bit of time last year, but this has been really cool.
Yeah.
I wish it could be longer, but I have a monastery.
I know
to go
you do.
to.
That's fine.
Thanks a lot, mate.
No, pleasure. Thank you very much. Cheers, Robin.
Cheers.
Nice one.